Hello there, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Your headlines in the Thames Valley this Friday evening. Parents protest in Oxford. They say children with special educational needs are being failed by the education system and it's getting worse.
As a mother, when your child who's just 10 and should be thriving and is barely surviving, you know a change has to happen.
The dog breeders warning against buying puppies online. We meet the Banbury woman whose dog Hope died just days after she brought her home.
Also on the programme, how the first ever census for thoroughbreds is helping to make sure retired racehorses are well looked after.
And they've got wrinkly ones, knobbly ones, big and small ones. I'm at a farm helping to pick one of more than 1 billion pumpkins.
Good evening. Families who say they're being failed by the education system have held a protest in Oxford. The parents of children with special educational needs say they're being let down by local authorities, with many in unsuitable schools.
They include Amy White, whose 10-year-old son has autism, ADHD, acute anxiety and a sensory processing disorder. Despite facing many struggles, she says the council has refused to move him from his mainstream school.
Well, Oxfordshire County Council unanimously approved a motion today to improve SEND provision following a damning report by Ofsted of their services. With more, here's Natalie Verney.
3 weeks ago, Amy's 10-year-old son, who has special educational needs, told her he wouldn't survive another year. He'd stopped eating and sleeping.
We submitted all this evidence to the local authority along with much medical supporting evidence of the complexity of his conditions. And just this week they decided to tell me that a panel of people who have never met my son have decided that mainstream can still meet his needs and they won't consider looking at a specialist provision for him.
Amy's now preparing to take them to tribunal, which can take a year.
It's broken me as a person. You're only as happy as your child. And a few weeks ago, for the first time ever in my life, my GP had to sign me off for 2 weeks from stress because I physically couldn't cope. I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Amy's situation isn't unique, which is why these parents are calling for change.
The state of the SEND department in Oxford is actually terrifying for the children. There's so many children that are at breaking point.
Horrendous. We've been fighting for 3 years. Nobody gets back to you. The communication is terrible.
It is just a shambles, and there is so many smoke screens by OCC and the government to just distract us all, and it's just not good enough. There's no communication.
Last month, Ofsted released a damning report on SEND provision in Oxfordshire. Inspectors found widespread and systemic failings, with children not getting the education they need and families not being listened to. Well, since then, the council has apologised and committed to rapid progress. But the parents I've been speaking to today aren't convinced that those changes will come fast enough.
The council's created a new cabinet role who's in charge of turning things around. She told me there have already been some improvements.
The percentage of educational healthcare plans that we're delivering in the 20-week statutory timeline has gone from 4%, which is where it was in January, to 48% where it is now. And actually the in-month figure for September it stands at 78%. So we're already starting to see some improvements, but we know that there's still a long way to go.
The council has a £40 million SEND budget deficit, and it's signed up to a government programme to reduce this. Improving the service at the same time as cutting costs will be a challenge. Natalie Verney, ITV News.
Roads near Basingstoke train station have been closed for much of the day due to a police incident in the town centre. It was reported a man was throwing objects from a balcony at the Skyline Plaza apartment building. Roads to and from the station were closed as a precaution. Local buses have been severely affected all afternoon.
Campaigners on both sides of the debate surrounding the controversial low-traffic neighbourhood scheme in Oxford will make their final push for support this weekend, ahead of a decision due next week on whether the measures will be made permanent. The father of Hollywood actor Florence Pugh has put up a large poster at his cafe protesting against the scheme after claiming the measures have caused trade to fall dramatically. Leaflets will be distributed over the next few days.
It's been tragic. Obviously, what's happened, because if you block 1.2 miles of roads linking two very important roads together and take away 600 car parking spaces and single yellow lines, it obviously kills the economy. People can't stop, people can't get here, and people from the Shire can't get here. And if you've got over 200 businesses, suddenly without, many of them, or most of them, are all going to suffer.
I walk more than I used to. I used to cycle everywhere and just take the big roads and grit my teeth and bear it. But now I find I'm walking more and I'm getting exercise, and the kids are getting exercise because it's just more pleasant to walk around.
A woman from Banbury whose puppy died a week after she brought her home is warning others of the potential dangers of buying a pet on social media.
Shannon Neal says she regrets not acting on the signs that something wasn't right with her puppy Hope. The Kennel Club says rogue breeders can sell puppies online with little scrutiny. Mark McQuillan has more.
In Banbury, Shannon only has memories of her puppy Hope to reflect on. She bought the Shih Tzu Bichon Frise online in May, but the dog died just a week after Shannon brought her home. She says there were some initial concerns she wished she'd acted upon at the time.
Literally just as I was getting ready to leave with the puppies decided to latch on to the mum for a feed. It must have been normal to them. They mustn't have been weaned off. So that's one of the warning signs. I wish I'd have stopped myself in that moment and said, no, I'm not bringing the puppy home. The breeder would have definitely known that she was poorly. Even the vet said that.
Good boy! Good boy!
Near Didcot, Liz and Heather have been breeding and showing dogs for more than 50 years, in particular Tibetan Spaniels.
Oliver!
They say when it comes to buying puppies, it's important to take your time, do your research, and find a breeder that is registered with the Kennel Club.
I'd want to see where my puppy was coming from. I'd want to go back again when the puppies have been born, but were about 4 or 5 weeks old, so I could see them again. I would want to keep going back and seeing, and a reputable breeder will be quite happy for you to do that.
It's so easy, not just in buying a puppy, buying lots of things. See a picture, great. That's what I want, and I want it now. Yes, and people don't have the patience, and when you're dealing with an animal in particular, you've got to take your time.
Liz and Heather have decades of experience breeding and caring for dogs, but now significantly more people are going onto social media looking to buy puppies, according to the Kennel Club, and that can come with risks, with the organisation's research finding 1 in 4 puppies advertised on social media get sick or die before their first birthday. Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, say they don't allow the sale of animals on their platforms and remove the content as soon as they become aware of it. While TikTok say they have thousands of people working to keep the platform safe and, where appropriate, content or accounts which violate their policies will be removed.
Come on in. Do you want a treat?
Back in Banbury, Shannon is enjoying life with her new dogs, bought online in a far more thorough, positive experience, meaning she can now look forward to a bright future with Milo and Monty. Mark McQuillan, ITV News.
Thanks. You're watching ITV News Meridian in the Thames Valley. Still plenty more to come on the programme. And for more, of course, you can go online as well. The website address on the screen, itv.com/Meridian. You can call us, 0808 1010 095, as ever is the number. And you can search for us and follow us on social media.
There are concerns that some students are turning to sex work to pay their bills. The cost of living crisis, combined with real-term cuts to maintenance loans, means the average student is now almost £600 out of pocket each month.
Well, a survey seen exclusively by ITV News shows that 3% of students in the South East now do sex work to make money at university. Here's Catherine Walker.
I worked out in my first year, I made roughly around £25,000. You know, this actually was more than my teacher at the time.
David, whose name we've changed to protect his identity, is one of over 56,000 students across the UK turning to sex work. Alongside his studies, he sells explicit pictures and videos to his subscribers online. The money helps pay his student rent, which is almost £2,000 a month.
Every time I do pull out my phone to create content, I almost feel sick of the idea of what I'm doing. It's kind of disgusting, but then on the other hand, the money which it brings in, it's great. Pays my rent, gets me luxuries. It's the reason I live where I live, the reason I eat what I eat.
You seem quite conflicted about the work.
The idea that that's the level I have to stoop to, and I guess emotionally, I don't agree with what I'm doing, but I need to pay my bills.
A survey seen exclusively by ITV News shows that 3% of undergraduate students in the South East do sex work to make money at university. A further 6% said they would turn to sex work to raise cash in a financial emergency. With bills expected to rise again this winter, the mental health charity Student Minds wants to see more support for students struggling with money.
We know that there's different reasons why students do participate in sex work. What's really important to us is that they're not stigmatised for doing this, that their safety is an absolute priority, and that they're not dissuaded from looking for help and support where they may need it. For us, this is a symptom of the cost of living crisis, and we're really concerned that there may be some students who are participating in this who feel like they have to and don't feel like they have a choice.
Without urgent government intervention, Save the Student are worried that more undergraduates will turn to risky ways of raising money.
I think more students are turning to sex work because of the lack of money there is for living costs. I think the maintenance loan, which is the money the government gives them to cover their living costs, simply hasn't kept up with inflation. And it was already at a point where it wasn't high enough. So students are looking at things like credit cards, they're doing gambling, and sex work comes into that as well. They're seeing it as a way to make money, sometimes a way to make money fast, to help them get by at the end of each month.
In a statement, the Department of Education told ITV News they have made £276 million available for universities to help students who are struggling financially. They said they urge students who are worried about their circumstances to speak to their university. But until student finance reflects the cost of living, the concern is that more students like David will see sex work as their only option to pay the bills. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Next, traders in Salsbury say they fear for their livelihoods because of major roadworks in the city centre that are due to last for a year. They include widening pavements and new streetlights.
Which council says it's concerned to hear of difficulties and is in regular contact. But some shopkeepers have already seen a drastic reduction in business. Derek Johnson has more.
This business, which buys and sells stamps and other collectibles, has been in Salsbury since the 1960s. The owner, though, is concerned about these roadworks outside that began in August. Since then, he says business has dropped by 40%.
When the telephones stopped ringing, we realised that we're going to be affected by this continuing roadworks. It's too much activity.
The Fisherton Gateway improvements are the first significant investment in the city centre bankrolled by the government's Future High Streets Fund. They include widening pavements and introducing new streetlights. Works are planned to take a year, and this one-way system will be in place for the duration.
Spend it on a lift at the railway station. Lots of elderly people up and down those slopes. We have people who come visit us. That's a major problem. Instead, they waste the money here.
I think they're really good. The men are good. Sometimes I've got a shopping trolley and they'll always make sure we cross over. All right, yeah.
Traders, including these sisters, with businesses side by side, are concerned shoppers may not realise that it is business as usual.
A lot of our customers are unable to come in because there's no parking out the front. We do have quite a few elderly customers and disabled customers who used to park out the front.
Obviously my sales have dropped considerably, and obviously I'm concerned later on after December when the railings come this side, because people won't be walking this side either then. And I'm quiet now, so I don't imagine how I'm going to be when that happens.
In a statement, the leader of Wiltshire Council said, "We are concerned to hear of any difficulties local businesses face, and we apologise for the inconvenience caused by these improvement works." He said the contractor had been regularly liaising with all local businesses to keep them up to date on the works, and that pedestrian access into those local businesses had been maintained at all times. Derek Johnson, ITV News, Salisbury.
It's 16 minutes past 6 and the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30 with our preview, Charlene White.
Coming up, Israel gives evacuation orders to half of Gaza's population as the UN warns of a humanitarian disaster. Israel gave those in northern Gaza 24 hours to evacuate ahead of an expected ground offensive into the region. Here, the Metropolitan Police warn of a rise in anti-Semitic hate crime. And the FA face a backlash after deciding not to light up the Wembley Arch in Israel's colours. So do join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Now let's get some sport. Andrew joins us in the studio. And it is a big weekend for our runners.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll start with probably the world's top 10-mile run. Certainly the press release says it guarantees inspiring history, salty air and glorious sea views. Yes, it's the Great South Run on Sunday. The race in Portsmouth sees Olympic athletes alongside fun runners and plenty of people raising money and awareness for charities, like two dads from Waterlooville, who I met earlier. Nick and Joe say they're not natural runners, but they're determined to take on the Great South Run to spread the word about Sands United FC Solent. The club offers dads and other family members support after suffering the loss of a baby through miscarriage, stillbirth or neonatal death.
We'll be running with empty buggies, empty pushchairs, which obviously acts as a very symbolic statement. But we really pride ourselves in not just focusing on the dads. We support uncles and granddads and siblings, and we've seen how the wider ripple effect of grief can hit the entire family.
Nick from Waterlooville set up the football team after losing Evelyn. Joe lost Solomon, and they want others who suffered similar trauma to know help is out there.
As soon as I got there, you just felt this warm feeling of support without you never had to say anything. You know that you can always talk about it, but it's just that silent support of knowing that you're in good hands.
The Great South Run began with just 2,000 competitors in Southampton back in 1990. Now, over 20,000 people will pace through Portsmouth, raising money, awareness and smiles along the way. And the running doesn't stop there. The Oxford Half Marathon also takes place on Sunday. Thousands will be winding their way past the ivory towers and famous spires, across the River Cherwell before looping around Old Marston Village. Last year, money was raised for 12 charities, including Cancer Research UK and Helen and Douglas House. Good luck to all. On to football, where the international break means just one of our league sides is in action this weekend. Swindon hosting Newport County. The Robins having lost their last two matches, but still lying just 3 points off the automatic promotion places. Now, what happens to racehorses after they retire from racing? The truth is, we don't always know, which is why the first ever racehorse census is taking place to make sure these thoroughbreds are properly cared for throughout their lives, as James Webster's been finding out.
The thrill of race day. There is excitement for those spectating in the stands and for those from the stables who've been training the horses. People like Seamus Mullins from Wilsford Stables in Salsbury, who says it's important horses have good lives after their racing days.
We had an open day here 2 Sundays ago, and we had over 450 people here. And they were all enthralled by the life the horses have while they're in training. And we also did a demonstration of the retraining of racehorses, what horses do after their racing career. And that was the most sought after demonstration of the day. People loved it.
On race days like this one, all eyes are on the horses. Their form will be studied and analysed, but just how well are they watched when their racing days are finished? Not always well enough, which is why the first ever online census of ex-racers in Great Britain's taking place. The Horse Welfare Board admits that only a fifth of horses' records are up to date after they leave racing.
We're really looking to close that gap. And by closing the gap, we learn a lot more. That's valuable data, which will tell us, the lives these horses go on to lead, what careers they go into, what support they need, and it helps shape the proposition for what aftercare should look like within the racing industry.
Some horses go through rehoming centres like this one.
It's all weather, so whatever the weather is outside, we can still work horses.
It might take many months or even years to retrain a horse and get it ready for a new life. Some go on to play polo or take part in dressage or a quieter life with an owner who simply enjoys riding out.
We put them into small groups to just let them chill and relax and not necessarily forget what's gone before, but just put a gap between what's gone before. And we'll watch them and we'll listen to them. But we tend to specialise in the quirkier horses. We get some straight from racing that are quiet, but the majority of the ones that we get need that extra bit of understanding.
This census isn't compulsory, but it's hoped owners will want to take part. How concerned are you about the information you don't have, the horses that you haven't got information about?
This census should help. It should help bridge that gap in traceability. But the one thing everybody can have the reassurance of, we won't stop until we get data on all the horses that have left racing.
With better records, the industry hopes it will be able to better demonstrate how it is looking after the welfare of horses, both during and after their racing days. James Webster, ITV News.
Yep. A fine idea. That's the sport. Good luck to anyone running this weekend.
So, you're going to have a go?
I'll be cheering them on.
Good. Well done. Thank you very much. Now, a farm near Crawley has produced more than 1 million pumpkins and gourds ready to take prime place on windowsills and doorsteps right across our region.
Yes, tens of thousands of people are expected to scour the fields at Tully's farm looking for their prized pumpkin to take home and carve for Halloween, including our reporter, Joe Caution.
Well, you're certainly spoilt for choice here. These pumpkins come in all different colours, shapes and sizes. The team planted 600,000 seeds in mid-May. Now they have more than 1 million pumpkins and gourds for the public to choose from ahead of Halloween. Let's speak to the owner, Stuart. This has been your best year yet, but it has been a challenge with the weather.
It has been a challenge, but remarkably they've done really well. They went in pretty well.
Compare it to other pumpkin farms who have struggled this year.
Yeah, I guess so. I've heard a few stories. It's quite heavy land, and the seeds went into pretty good conditions, and they seem to have loved the wet, hot conditions that we had all summer.
More than us, at least. Look, I've been on the hunt for the perfect pumpkin all day now, and it's been pretty tough for me to find. Stuart, thanks very much indeed. But luckily, I've got the help from Sam here. Sam, what makes the perfect pumpkin, and how do I carve it?
You can't go too wrong, really, as long as you're going for a decent-sized pumpkin that you can get a nice face in. But it does depend whether you're going for a carving pumpkin or whether you're going to cook up a nice pumpkin risotto or something like that.
Plenty of options with your pumpkin, aren't there? Look, we've seen lots of families enjoying themselves this afternoon. We've seen some babies dressed as pumpkins that we've been trying not to get confused. They look very cute, though, we must say.
Have you seen any dogs yet?
No dogs yet. A few dogs, no dogs dressed as pumpkins, but that's to come. Look, what makes people want to come here rather than just nipping to the supermarket down the road?
I think it's the experience. It's coming into an experience where you've got live actors, you've got live roaming music, 20 different photo opportunities, well, over 20 different photo opportunities. We've got a 32-metre observation wheel, so you can see our 1 million pumpkins from above. And yeah, just creating that experience. We've got a Pumpkin Nights event, which is spooky walk and picking under the festoon light with live music and all that sort of thing. So
not too scary, I hope.
Not too scary at all. No.
Family friendly.
It's all about the Instagram.
All about the Instagram, apparently. There we go. Not much of an influencer myself, but look, we've been having a go at putting Sam's top tips of how to carve a pumpkin into practice. I can't take credit for it, but the team have done a wonderful job. These two look quite familiar, don't you think, Matt, Sangeeta?
Don't know what he's talking about.
No. How do you feel about that?
I'm definitely the one on the right.
Oh, okay, fine. I will look back and see which
But I
one
wonder
that is.
what they do for the rest of the year. Do you know what I mean? Because after... Just grow them,
Grow,
I suppose. Yeah.
Grow and eat them. Right, let's talk about the weather. Holly joins us in the studio. Big change this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. So at the moment out there, we've got wind, we've got rain. It's a bit grotty. And then as that clears through, we've got a real drop in our temperatures and a totally different feel, despite having some sunshine, compared, of course, to last weekend.
So, Holly, why is that? So we get the sunshine, but the temperatures plunge.
Yeah, it seems weird,
That's
doesn't it?
a bit dramatic, is it, plunge? But it's good 10 degrees lower.
I think plunge is a very fair word for it. And I'll tell you why. Take a look at this map. So this is the setup we had last weekend. So your high pressure to the east, low to the west, and that warm air up from the south. And here comes that plunge, Sangeeta, because then you've got this weekend you're low to the east up at Scandinavia, and that's drawing down this Arctic air. And yeah, a real difference in temperatures and even the potential for some frost by night for some.
So temperatures getting more like autumn, but Joe's Million Pumpkins aside, it doesn't really look like autumn anyway, does it yet?
No, and you might have noticed this, that our autumn colours are very much behind schedule this year. So this is a photo from this time last year at Fursey Gardens, and you can see those lovely autumnal colours coming through, the oranges and the reds there and the yellows. And this was taken from me today by the head gardener, Andrew. Really luscious, really green, just some little yellow starting to come through, but barely anything. And that's because your autumn leaves don't just change colour with respect to the shorter days, because the decrease in sunshine starts to change those colours, but the weather is also really important. And what you need for your best autumn colours, particularly those reds, is some bright days, but also some cold nights. And that is what we have not had of late, but it is what we've got coming over the next few days. So it'll be really interesting to see if this weekend and the beginning of next week leads to some lovely autumn colours appearing this time next week. We shall see. Hopefully we'll get lots of pictures in. Let's get more details. Here we go.
Whatever the weather, it always feels like home. Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian weather.
Still rather wet and windy for some of us at the moment. We've still got a warning of rain in force, but it is all set to change. So this is the feature responsible for today's wind and rain, but it is clearing through, and behind it this much chillier air is tucking in, so hence this real drop in temperatures for this weekend. Let's take a look at where that rain is at the moment. Some brighter echoes there, some rumbles of thunder still a possibility. That all clears through though, and then we see these colder conditions taking charge as northwesterly wind starts to come in. And last night we saw lows of around 15 or 16 degrees. Tonight we're talking more like 7 or 8 degrees. So a very different feel to things, a very different start to tomorrow morning. Bright, some sunshine to be had. As the day goes on, a bit more cloud bubbles up, a few sharp showers develop as well. Still some spells of sunshine, I think, but just a very different feel, with temperatures only getting up to around 11 to 14 degrees, which is low for the time of year anyway. Our high tide times for tomorrow, we've got Southampton there at 11:42 and again at 11:51 as we push into the evening. On Sunday, I think we should see some sunshine, those winds a little lighter as well, temperatures though dropping that bit lower. And by night, we start to see some increasingly low temperatures and the risk in places, I suspect, of a touch of frost. Still some bright weather into the beginning of next week, but those winds start to increase a little as well. Take care.
Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian weather.
And in just a moment here, we've got the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Stacey is back with our late update just after 10:30 this evening, but that is it from us for the time being. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever you're doing. Take care.
Happy weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.